Hi readers, welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads. Lee here with my weekend books. And I'm only doing one video this weekend to post for next week because, bottom line, I've had to work the last 2 weekends in a row and I'm exhausted, and hopefully the 4th of July weekend will be quiet. But this week I read 3 books, and two of them were okay. One was pretty good. So I started the week with The Stationery Shop by Marjane Kamali. As you know, a couple weeks ago, Israel attacked Iran, and then the U.S. bombed Iran nuclear facility areas, and then Iran shot missiles at a U.S. military base in Qatar. So all that happened while I was reading this book, which is about 1953 Iran and the U.S.-backed coup. It's not really about that. It's more of a love story. Roya, a dreamy, idealistic teenager living amid the political upheaval of 1953 Tehran, finds a literary oasis in kindly Mr. Fakhri's neighborhood stationery shop, stocked with books and pens and bottles of jewel-colored ink. Then, Mr. Fakhri, with a keen instinct for budding romance, introduces her to his other favorite customer, handsome Bahman, who has a burning passion for justice and a love for Rumi's poetry. And Roya loses her heart at once. Their relationship blossoms, and the little stationery shop remains their favorite place in all of Tehran. A few short months later, on the eve of their marriage, Roya agrees to meet Bahman at the town square, but suddenly violence erupts, a result of the coup that forever changes their country's future. In the chaos, Bahman never shows. For weeks, Roya tries desperately to contact him, but her efforts are fruitless. Reluctantly, she moves on, to college in California, to another man, to a life in New England, until a chance encounter nearly 60 years later gives her the opportunity to ask him the questions that have haunted her for more than half a century. Why did you leave? Where did you go? How is it that you were able to forget me? This rambled a bit. It was okay. I enjoyed the ending, but it just felt like it took a lot. It was very descriptive, like very. And it got a little too much for me. So in the end, this book was okay for me. What I found interesting was that I did not know anything about the 1953 coup. And when I read the summary of this, I was like, So I went to Google and I said, hey Google, what happened in Iran in 1953? And Google told me the US and the Brits had something to do with oil, shocking, backed a coup in Iran. So this does go into a little bit of the history of that, but I learned more from watching documentaries about it. Anywho, next up was a book that pleasantly surprised me, and that is Miranda Smith's Smile for the Cameras. This is a take on like an 80s or 90s slasher film, and after I finished this, I had to watch a slasher film. This was a very fun read. 20 years ago, Ella Winters was the it girl. She made a name for herself in Hollywood and throughout America as the sole survivor in the cult classic slasher Grad Night. But the real horror is what happened when the cameras weren't rolling, something terrible that Ella and her co-stars agreed never to speak of again. Shortly after the movie's premiere, Ella disappeared from the acting scene. That's not actually right, I don't think, but anyway, under the pretense of caring for her ailing mother, hoping to ease her guilty mind with a quiet life out of the spotlight. Since her mother's passing, Ella has decided to return to the silver screen, and with the cast and crew of Grad Night in the process of filming a reunion documentary, Ella has an express ticket back into Hollywood's good graces. Weighed down by the secret she's been keeping all these years, Ella apprehensively makes the trip to the original set, a cabin in rural Tennessee, to reunite with her classmates for the first time in more than a decade. But when the actors begin to meet the same gruesome fates as the characters they originally played, falling victim to someone dressed as the Grad Night villain, it's clear that their secret is out. Now the question is, Can the final girl survive one last nightmare? I had a really good time with this book. I think I started it and finished it the same night. No tabs because I just gobbled it up. Really, really fun read. And I think this is a debut. I don't think it's a debut. It's not a debut. My bad. Anywho, wrapping it up with the final book because, again, I'm exhausted. This was a bit of a letdown. 2 lives, 1 chance to get it right. The Other Side of Now by Paige Harbison. And this kind of felt a little bit to me like the stationery shop. It just kind of rambled on. And there were some parts that I really liked. But in the end, a little too much of Meg Bryan and a little too less of everybody else. It was like a lot of telling and not showing. With a leading role on a hit TV show and a relationship with Hollywood's latest heartthrob, Meg Bryan appears to have everything she ever wanted. But underneath, her happiness is as fake as her stage name, Lana Lord. Following a tiny nervous breakdown at her 30th birthday party, she books an impromptu trip to Ireland, specifically to the village to where she and her late best friend, Amy, always dreamed of moving. When Meg arrives, the people in town don't just recognize her, they seem to know her. She quickly, reluctantly, realizes she has somehow slipped into an alternative reality, one where she did move to Ireland as a teenager, one where she never got famous, and, most shocking of all, one where Amy is alive and well. She just wants nothing to do with Meg. And that's the part I don't remember. I don't think it made clear exactly why she doesn't want anything to do with Meg. Or if it did, it just didn't feel like enough to me. Despite her bewilderment, Meg is clear-eyed about one thing. This is a once in 2 lifetimes chance to reconnect with her friend and repair what she broke, or else risk losing Amy all over again. Fantastic premise. The execution to me, I think I gave it, 3 stars. And the reason, what is excellent about this book is there's a playlist that is fairly diverse and introduced me to some new music I had not heard of. And I listened to the soundtrack at least twice on my Amazon Music. It's a playlist on Spotify also. Anywho, I am wrapping this one up today, keeping it short because I am exhausted from having worked all weekend. And I got a Guinness beef stew in the kitchen cooking, and I have to have a snack because I can smell it and it's making my stomach growl. Anywho, that's it for me. As always, if you stuck with me this long, happy reading, and thank you for sticking with me on my journey.